Good Friday evening, everyone. Welcome to DraftKings is the Sweat. She's Jessie, Coffield. I'm Emerson, Lotzia. I've said it once, I'll say it again. You can trust us, people, because we're from the internet.
But trust these guys a little bit more than us. It's our NBA panel, DK Live's Mike Barner and the Action Network's Matt LaMarca. And we'll get right to it, guys. NBA building blocks. So the players you're building your lineup around. Quickly, though, we have to address the fact that Action Matt LaMarca is not wearing a hat.
No,
which
he's
might
not.
Be the first time ever on the show.
He's got some
Your
flow.
hair looks great, LaMarca.
Oh, thank you. I've done it once before. The reason that I dressed up a little bit, I was supposed to be going to a Christmas party and got the dates wrong. It's tomorrow, not tonight.
Yeah, shocker, a Christmas party.
Was actually about
let me see, what's the date today? It's the
11th.
11th.
We like to keep the spirit going as long as possible, you know?
Oh, love
Mazel
that.
tov,
cool.
bro.
We'll see you there.
Okay, well, now that the important stuff's out of the way, one way to narrow down building blocks is to look at games that could yield a high fantasy value. So, Matt LaMarca, which games are you looking to target tonight?
Yeah, I think the obvious choice is the Bucks versus the Wizards. It's got the second highest over-under on the slate at 227 points. Both of these teams play pretty fast. They're both in the top 8 in pace this season. And we get the added benefit of the Bucks being shorthanded without Giannis Antetokounmpo. So a lot of value opened up on that side, but this should be a high-paced game with a lot of scoring that we can take advantage of.
Mike Barner, what say you?
Yeah, there's a lot of games tonight with blowout potential, so I'm trying to target the ones that project to be a little bit more competitive. Definitely the Bucks-Wizards game is a great one. I also like the Lakers and the Jazz. Both teams are dealing with a lot of injuries, so they should have some pretty short rotations that you can take advantage of.
All right, guys. Well, as for building block number 1, who's someone you're willing to pay up for tonight, Mike?
Bradley Beal stands out as a great option to me at 8,600. The Wizards are a much better team at home, and this game isn't nearly the blowout risk that it was now that Giannis is out. Beal scored at least 40.3 DK points in 7 straight, so he should have a high floor again in this one.
Matt, who are you willing to shell out the cash for? And you're
way off the radar here and saying you should pay up for James Harden. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, your internet's awful. It's really bad.
But we can hear you.
Okay.
Oh, now you're good. Okay.
James Harden is my pick. He's just been so good. I get that there's some blowout risk versus the Cavaliers tonight, but if the Cavs are getting blown out, it's likely because James Harden has put together an incredible first 3 quarters. So this guy has just had the safest floor and highest ceiling in fantasy for the better part of a month, and I don't see any reason why we should go away from him tonight.
All right, Matty, building block number 2, who's a mid-tier option you should have in your lineup?
Chris Middleton. I'm going back to that game between the Wizards and the Bucks. If you look at what the Bucks have done this season with Giannis off the floor, Middleton has seen a usage bump of 9.1%, which is pretty ridiculous. He's averaging close to 1.3 DraftKings points per minute. So when you consider that it's a great matchup, they also could potentially be without Eric Bledsoe, which would give him an even further usage increase. I think that Middleton arguably is the best point per dollar play on the entire slate.
Mike, a mid-tier option you should have in your lineup.
I'm sticking with that Bucks-Wizard game as well. Just one quick point. I did see that Eric Bledsoe is going to play tonight, so the Bucks at least won't be without 2 of their top players. I like Malcolm Brogdon at 5,700. He's been extremely efficient this year. He's shooting 52.1% from the field. He should get some more scoring opportunities with Giannis out. He's also chipped in 4.6 rebounds and 3.4 assists per game, which helps make up for his lacks of defensive stats. To lean things a little bit even more in his favor, both of these teams are in the top 8 in the league in pace of play.
All right, and building block number 3, Mike, who's a player you're thinking could return great value because of low ownership tonight?
So we've talked about the Lakers-Jazz game. Donovan Mitchell and Joe Ingles are probably both going to be pretty highly owned because basically the Jazz don't have a healthy point guard. I like both of them, but Kyle Korver at 3,500 might also be worth considering. He scored 23.8 DK points in just 24 minutes Wednesday against the Magic. He should approach around 25 minutes again in this game. The Lakers also played the 3rd fastest pace, so Korver has a nice chance here to provide some cheap value.
Matt, someone you're looking at because they might have some low ownership here.
I like Kyle O'Quinn for the Pacers, and I think that there's a good chance he's going to get overlooked given all the value on the slate. But O'Quinn is a really high volume type of player when he's on the floor. He's good for about 1.3 DraftKings points per minute. And he has a great matchup today against the Knicks, who have allowed the most points in the paint this season. They're going to be without Enes Kanter, who's one of their best rebounders. So O'Quinn could potentially do some damage, even though he's not going to play a ton of minutes at his low salary. I think he has a chance to give us, a really nice return on our salary investment.
All right, you two hang tight. We'll look at some of this evening's NBA game spreads coming up right after we chase or fade some player props with our NFL squad.
I'm Tara Lenazak here with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. The Bengals seem to have a favorite for their head coaching job. The only problem is he's a little preoccupied at the moment. Cincinnati reportedly has their eyes on Rams quarterback coach Zach Taylor, who is currently game planning for LA's divisional round matchup with the Dallas Cowboys. A little background on Taylor. He's a former star QB at Nebraska. He helped develop Ryan Tannehill as a quarterback coach with the Miami Dolphins in 2012, and he has spent the last 2 seasons with the Rams as a position coach. Taylor is also familiar with the area as he served as the University of Cincinnati's offensive coordinator before joining the Rams in 2017. This season, with Taylor overseeing Jared Goff, the Rams went 13-3 and had the NFL's 5th-ranked passing offense. A 35-year-old offensive-minded coach will be a drastic change for the Bengals after 16 seasons of Marvin Lewis. The hiring appears to be inevitable, but since the Rams are still in the playoffs, they can't negotiate a contract. So Cincinnati will just have to sit tight for now.
I do not know about you, Emerson, but I'm jacked up for the divisional round this weekend.
Yeah, you are.
So jacked up. So let's bring our NFL panel to talk about it. DK Live's Pierce Dietrich, Jeff Ulrich, and Steve Buchanan. Welcome. Let's play Chase or Fade.
All right, looking at player props for this weekend in the Colts-Chiefs game, Travis Kelce has his receiving yards total set at 84.5. Pierce, Chase or Fade that the Colts key in on Kelce, and he goes under this total.
I've got to fade this. They can key in on him all they want. I don't think they're going to stop him. No one stopped him this year. No one stopped him last year. No one's pretty much stopped him over his entire career. This is his best offense. The over-under is huge. I just don't see the scenario, barring a giant snowstorm, that goes to you, Steve, where he does not go over this total.
Oh. Sorry about that, Steven. I didn't bring it up. He did. But, Jeffrey, what do you think? 84.5 receiving yards for Travis Kelce, over or under?
Pierce doesn't see a scenario where this doesn't happen. This has happened like over half the time this year. He's only gone over this total 7 times in the whole season. So
only 7.
I mean,
only 7. Okay, it's like half the season, dude. But okay, go ahead.
Shut up, Steve. The matchup on paper looks good. I mean, the Colts are giving up the most receiving yards to the tight end position. I just feel like this is going to be a Tyreek Hill game. I really do. Deep down, you call it what you want. I'm going to take the under here. It's just not a prop I'd be looking to play personally.
Steve, where you going, buddy?
I mean, look, when you think of the what the Colts defense has done well this season, defending against tight ends is not up there at all. They've allowed the most receiving yards to opposing tight ends on the year, averaging 71 per game, and the highest catch percentage at 77%. 15.1 DK fantasy points per game is around what they're averaging to opposing tight ends. And of course, Kelce with a monster target share that he gets week in and week out. He's seen 4 straight weeks of 9 targets. Yeah, I mean, I can understand wanting to look at Hill in this game, but Hill's matchup is really not that great here either. So I much rather Kelce in this spot, especially with the over on that prop.
All right, well, at running back, the highest projected rush yards prop is Zeke Elliott at 99.5 versus the Rams. So, Jeff, Chase or Fade that he's going to break the century mark in LA?
Yeah, it's another one where I'm sure most people look on paper and they say, the Rams have given up. I think it's actually the most yards per carry in the entire league. But I just don't like the spot for Zeke, at least not as a rusher. I think PPR-wise he's going to be just fine. I think he's going to see a lot of work. But going over 100 yards in this game, I don't think it's going to happen. And part of the reason is I just think the Rams' rushing attack is going to get hot. And I think they're going to dominate the game. And that just means less snaps for Zeke. It means more likelihood that Dallas is going to be forced into a passing situation later in the game. I don't think he's going to get the 100 yards on the ground. He'll probably still have a good fantasy day, like I said, but I'd take the under on this prop for sure.
Steve, chase it or fade it.
Yeah, so look, he's done this over 8 times with some quick math for Jeff. That's almost half the season. But look, the Rams defense has been pretty good so far this year, but What's a little bit concerning is if you look at the last 5 games they played, they allowed at least 100 rushing yards in 4 of those last 5 games and almost 5 yards per carry in all those games here. So, what you like about Elliott too is that it doesn't really matter what the score of the game is. They still kind of ground and pound with him regardless. So I think you have to like your chances here. It's not the best matchup. I will admit that. Jeff's definitely right on that. It's not the one that you're getting all excited about, but in terms of fantasy production overall, he should still have a pretty good day here, but I think he can reach the 100 mark here.
Pierce, where are you going?
Yeah, I'm going to fade. And let me echo what the guys have already said. In terms of fantasy production, you love what he's going to do. Passing or receiving yards, receptions. But if it comes strictly to rushing yards, this thing's going to be really close. We're talking a serious sweat going down to the end of the game. And like Steve mentioned, they will run the ball at the end. If he breaks a big play against the Rams when they're up 2 touchdowns, you're going to lose this bet. But I'm going to go with the fade because I think it's going to be more of a total yards. He might end up about 90 rushing yards. I don't think he goes over 100 on the ground.
All right, TB12's passing total set at 270 and a half. The dude averaged 272 yards per game during the regular season. So, Steven, I want you to chase your fade that the Pats actually rely more on the run, and Brady goes under this number.
Yeah, I think it's a very realistic chance that this happens here. I mean, I mentioned this earlier during the week. I think what's really going to make or break this game for the Chargers is how well they utilize the pass rush against Brady. That's obviously been, a position that he struggles in. I mean, obviously everyone struggles in that aspect there, but I don't like the matchup for Julian Edelman against Desmond King. I think that's not being talked about enough. King has been so good in coverage, especially against guys out of the slot. So I think this could be a lot of checkdowns to James White. James White is one of my favorite plays on the week, but that's not going to get Brady necessarily those big numbers you're looking for here in this match here. Really hard to like Rob Gronkowski here as well. So I don't see who he's going to throw to really get that mark. So I definitely under on this one here.
All right, Pierce. Steve thinks it's pretty realistic the under hits. What do you think?
Well, I agree and disagree. I agree that the cornerbacks, Desmond King included, are really going to be hard for Brady to get the yards, but I disagree with the fact that I think by, tiny little cuts over and over and over, little dump passes that end up breaking 10, 20 yards, he gets his way there. You look at it. I mentioned this on the show the other day. Last 10 playoff games for Brady, he averages 340 yards a game. It's the playoffs. It's Tom Brady. He's going to throw the ball. I know on paper it looks like they should run the ball, but Tom Brady passes in the playoffs.
Jeff, 270 and a half passing yards for TB12, over or under?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's definitely a realistic shot, and Pierce is right. If it's going to happen, it's going to come through like James White taking some 20-yard screen passes, etc. At the end of the game, you'll just be like, oh, Tom Brady has like 290 yards passing. But I'll take the under here. The Chargers play pace down. I'm aware of all the playoff stats, but I just think that the Chargers are going to be able to control this game better than people think, and I think it's going to come down to a bit of a slower pace, close game at the end. I just don't like the spot. Brady's only thrown over 40 times once in his last 5 games. The volume really hasn't been there for him of late. They've turned into more of a rushing team, so I'll take the under here.
Okay, guys, in the last game of the weekend, Drew Brees is at plus 135 to throw over 2.5 touchdowns. So, Pierce, chase or fade that he throws for at least 3 on Sunday?
Fade. 3 R's. Rusty. The Saints are going to come out rusty. The run. The Saints are going to lean on the run, and they'll run for touchdowns. And last, red zone. Eagles have the best red zone defense in football.
The 3 R's. Hot Take City sweatometer going off. Jeff, chase or fade it?
I don't know about the rusty narrative.
Rusty.
I'm pushing
throwing
it.
out all week, rusty. Like Sean
Rusty.
Payton's just been sitting in his couch, like watching TV, and he's like, "Can you get up Saturday?" Oh, I got to coach a game. Rusty. Whatever. Okay, I agree though. I take the under here. I mean, look, but it comes down to personnel usage. Drew Brees sometimes comes off the field in the red zone. They put in Taysom Hill to run, and they have Ingram and Kamara. He just does not throw as many touchdowns when all those guys are healthy and in the lineup. So I'll take the under here. I will say this: at least you're getting plus money. If you're like, you like the Superdome, you like the narrative. It's not that bad a price, but I'd take the under too.
So that's a fade. Steven, I heard you laughing hysterically during most of this, so take it away.
First of all, rusty. Well, here's the funny thing. Jeff agrees with the rusty thing and how it's funny, but he gets concerned when it's a little cold out. How are these guys going to handle the cold when they go out there? Like, you total fraud. Like, whatever. You can enjoy that all you want. But look, when it comes to this prop here, I mean, we haven't seen Brees throw more than 1 touchdown since week 12. And with the dominance of Kamara and Ingram in the red zone, it's hard to like him in this spot to hit that number here. And when you look at what they run for in plays, The Saints ran 53% of the plays, were passing plays, which was ranked 29th in the league. That was only more than the Ravens, Titans, and the Seahawks. So, yes, Drew Brees, is he one of the guys that can actually hit that? Absolutely. We've seen him do it before, but it's really hard to trust him in this spot, really any spot, to do so. But like Jeff said, plus money is always a good thing. If you can ride it and you're okay with it, definitely make your money there, but really hard to see him doing that on a normal basis.
Alrighty, well, after such an excellent segment, I think you guys need a break. You definitely deserve
Still a little
it.
rusty.
Yeah, it certainly seems like it. We'll talk some NBA next.
Hey, it's Brendan Glasheen, and with this DraftKings Fantasy Flash, get them while they're hot. After a wild card round victory over the Texans, the Colts have found a way to monetize their success by selling commemorative t-shirts. 1-0 shirts are on sale now, so hurry up and get them before they go out of style on Saturday. That's when Indy heads to Kansas City to take on the #1 seed in the AFC, the Chiefs. So this fashion trend will be short-lived and not what the cool kids will be wearing. One trend Indy hopes will continue is the lack of success KC has had in the playoffs. Chiefs are just 1-11 in their last 12 postseason games and are winless in their last 6 at Arrowhead Stadium. But these Chiefs have something those past teams never had, the MVP. Patrick Mahomes has Chiefs fans believing this year will be different. The stats: 50 touchdowns, 5,000 plus yards passing, the National Football League's top scoring offense. It's up to Mahomes and company to get it done because the Kansas City defense has allowed over 400 total yards per game to opposing teams, second worst in the league. With Andrew Luck on the other side, this has all the makings of an old-fashioned shootout.
A 9-game slate around the association tips off in less than 1 hour, less than 45 minutes, to be honest with you. We've got questions. These guys have answers. Welcome back to DK Live's Mike Barner, Matt LaMarca of the Action Network, who thought he had a Christmas party tonight, which is why he looks so dapper.
So we're looking at some of tonight's NBA game spreads, and we want you to tell us if they're too high or too low. Highest spread on the slate is 15.5 points, with the Warriors favored at home over the Bulls. Too high or too low, Matt?
Too high. The Warriors are great. The Bulls are not. We know this, but historically, if you look at the Warriors as a favorite of at least 15 points, they are 22, 27, and 1 against the spread since 2014. The Bulls are getting just 24% of the bets right now. And we know that Vegas is in business for a reason, right? They win these games more than they lose. So I obviously don't expect the Bulls to be able to win this game outright, but I think that they can cover a 15-point spread.
Mike, too high, too low, just right?
I'll take the other side and say it's too low. Bulls are awful. They really struggle to score points. The Warriors are healthy. They're well rested. I think this game gets ugly in a hurry. When these two teams met earlier in Chicago, the Warriors won by 25 points. So this isn't going to be.
Mike, Lakers at the Jazz. LA's getting 8 points here. Too high or too low?
I think the spread's actually pretty reasonable. The Lakers are not a very good team on the road, but the point guard situation complicates things a little bit for the Jazz. I think the Jazz cover, but I don't think it's a full-fledged blowout.
All right, Matt, what do you think?
I think that there's some value with the Jazz here. They've been playing much better recently. They're 7-4 over their past 11 games, outscoring opponents by an average of 8.5 points per 100 possessions. Lakers obviously still without LeBron. That's a huge deal for them. They're drastically worse without LeBron on the floor. And I'm not so worried about the point guard situation in Utah because they have Donovan Mitchell, who has really struggled at times this year. But without Rubio, it's kind of forcing him to take on more of an offensive workload. And he's played well. He played very well in his last game. So I think that the Jazz can make up for it. Mike mentioned Korver earlier. They've got some other, role players who I think can fill in and absorb some extra minutes. So I like the Jazz here. I think that they're certainly better than their record indicates, and I think that they're going to, get rolling here soon.
The Pacers are 8.5-point road favorites over the Knicks. Too high or too low, Action Matt?
I think this one is just right. I personally would not bet this game. I mean, the Pacers are clearly the superior side, but 8.5 is a lot to ask for a road team. They haven't been as good as they were last season, particularly Victor Oladipo hasn't been as good, and they're still without Miles Turner. They do have Domantas Sabonis, who can come in and absorb some minutes off the bench, and has been a great player when given an opportunity to start this season. But I do think that it's just maybe a point or two too many again. Like, this is a stay-away game for me.
Mike, where are you going on this?
I think it's a pretty reasonable line. We've discussed the injuries from both centers on these teams. The Knicks are 4-12 at home, so they really haven't had any advantage playing at the Garden. I think the Pacers will cover, but it's not a terrible line.
Alrighty, well, last one for you guys. Bucks are 2-point road favorites in Washington. Big move from 5.5 after news that the Greek Freak was doubtful. I believe he's not going to play now. This new line, too high or too low for you, Mike?
Yeah, Giannis is definitely out now. He's a big loss, but it's key that Eric Bledsoe is going to be able to play. I'll definitely take the Bucks to cover this one.
Matt, are you
I'm going the other way. I think it's too high. I like the Wizards. You hear me? Sorry.
Yep,
I know the
got
internet
you.
here is
Start
great.
over, buddy.
Okay. Wizards. Give me the Wizards getting the points. John Wall, even though he's a great player, his subtraction for the team hasn't had much of an impact. I mean, Bradley Beal has been fantastic. They now have Otto Porter back, who's giving them some really good minutes off the bench. And I think that without Giannis, Milwaukee is really missing, the heart and soul of their team. Everything that they do offensively runs through Giannis. He's their, primary ball handler, primary scorer. They do have some good pieces with Bledsoe and Chris Middleton. I expect them to keep this game competitive, but I don't think that they should be favored on the road without, their MVP candidate.
All right, good stuff. Need you two for Tears of Joy after we talk hockey with Chris Wassel, so please hang tight.
All right, but first, our guy Brendan Glasheen is catching up with a former Charger ahead of LA's clash with the Patriots on Sunday.
Let's welcome in a guy who knows a thing or two about the Chargers. Former Pro Bowl linebacker Sean Merriman joins the program. Good to have you on. Of course, we're previewing the AFC Divisional Playoff game between the New England Patriots and Sean's Chargers. Save your prediction. I want to start with Phillip Rivers. You played with him. This year may be the best season of his career. A lot has been made of his 0-7 record against Tom Brady. But is Rivers locked in as you've seen him before?
I think so. This has to be Phillip's year. I know we had some great teams in the past, but, I said before, this is the most balanced team in football. This is a different team than Phillips had. So right now, it's more focused and locked in. I've seen him in a very long time.
Hey, Bill Belichick tries to take away the other team's top targets. Everybody knows that. So for Rivers, that's Keenan Allen. He hasn't had a 100-yard receiving game since Week 13 at Pittsburgh. So how important is it for the Chargers to get Keenan Allen going in Foxborough on Sunday?
It's very important, but it's more important to get the rest of the guys going early on. That way it takes some of the pressure off of Keenan Allen. Going into a football game, you know what Keenan Allen is capable of doing on the field. You want to, if you're the Patriots, you look to go in and try to take him out of the game first and let other guys make plays. Well, as soon as the other guys start to make plays, now Keenan Allen doesn't have the same focus as they or the Patriots won't have the same focus on Keenan Allen as they did at the start of the game. So other players have to jump out there first and start making some plays.
One of those guys would be Melvin Gordon. He has been removed from the team's injury report. That's news from this afternoon. Even with the banged-up knee, he'll be out there Sunday. But if he happens to be slowed down by the injury, like he was against the Ravens last week, how key is the depth at running back for the Chargers, like Austin Eckler, Justin Jackson? Expectations for those guys?
Well, look, you've seen Melvin Gordon was in and out of the lineup some parts of during the year. Austin Eckler, these guys came into the game and stepped up. It's not about just running in between the tackles with Austin Eckler. He showed that he can do that, but also him being a receiver out of the backfield. He's another guy that can just take the ball down the field and, line up and take a short swing pass and take it for 30 or 40 yards. He is a multi-dimensional player, and he can be of use. He's had to come in and play well this year when Melvin Gordon was hurt.
Former Charger Sean Merriman joining us on The Sweat. The Bolts have won 12 of their last 14 games, Sean. A big part of that has been their defense, which I'm sure you are very proud of. It dominated last week in Baltimore. Really take us inside. Why has this defense been so successful as of late?
That front four is just they have so much talent up front, especially with Melvin Ingram and Joey Bosa. to me, those are the best 1-2 combination pass rushers in the National Football League. When those guys are on fire, there's no way for an offense to find out which way and which guy they're going to block. If you want to slide protect and have an extra guy on the other side to block Melvin Ingram, okay, fine, and Joey Bosa is going to have a spectacular game. That's why they're able to bring in more DBs and not have to bring in an extra linebacker if a team starts to run the ball, because they're just that good up front.
You discussed the front four for the Chargers defense. So what does this Chargers team need to do specifically to slow down Mr. Brady?
First and foremost, you got to have some 3-and-outs. You can't let him convert on third downs, because you give him more opportunities. He's going to keep marching the ball down the field, and at one point or another, he's going to score a lot of points. You got to get off the field on third down, put him in some third and long situations, so they have to do some draws and screens and get off the field and punt the football away. And that way, Phillip and that high-powered offense, they can get going. Going into Foxborough, you got to start fast. You can't start slow, because once they score points, it is hard to come back with these guys. They got their foot on the gas pedal, and they like to press it.
Hey, you mentioned the front four, as we just discussed. Give us a guy in the secondary, a guy or two that needs to have a big game.
I would say Derwin James, a spectacular rookie. He's my defensive rookie of the year in the way he's performed this year. He's been all around great, but more importantly, he's a guy that if they start running the ball and start dinking and dunking with short passes to get the ball out of Tom Brady's hands, he can have an impactful game by dropping down in the box and taking a position as a linebacker that can run with Gronk, that can step up in the box and perform just as well as a linebacker can.
All right, Sean, last thing for you. Your prediction for this one, please.
Oh, yeah. I'm predicting the Chargers to take this one. I think it'll be a 28-24 game. It'll be very close, come down to, a field goal plus a point. It's going to be 3 great quarters of football, and the fourth quarter is just about who doesn't turn the ball over and make mistakes. And I think this is the year the Chargers go in and take care of business.
It's funny. I thought you were going to pick.
Only 4 games on the fantasy hockey docket tonight, but that's okay. We still have Chris Wassel of Awesemo.com here to help us with opening face-off.
Hey, get on back over here.
We found
You're not going anywhere.
There he is.
But
do it once.
Yeah.
It's all good, man. I do have to correct you, though, Jessie. It's a special teammates edition of Opening Face-Off, okay? Get it right. We have the Penguins visiting Anaheim at center. We're asking you, Chris, to pick between their top 2 centers, so Sidney Crosby, $7,900, or save $1,000 for Evgeny Malkin.
Always the fun choices on a Friday night. You never know how you're going to be challenged.
Right?
I'm always taking Sidney Crosby. I mean, look, Crosby historically against John Gibson is averaging over a point a game, and you kind of have to take him at that point.
And we also have the Jets hosting the Red Wings. So
true.
Let's choose between two of their top wingers, rather, Captain Blake Wheeler at 7'3", or a slumping Patrick Laine at 6'4".
All right, here's the thing. Now, Laine's struggled mightily over about the past month or so. He had that great time in Finland. Everybody was happy. He scored a whole bunch of goals, and there was hope. And then it just went completely south. You have to go Blake Wheeler here. He's what drives the Winnipeg offense, for better or for worse. Yes, it was a bad night last night against Minnesota, but you don't expect that 2 nights.
Calgary is one of the night's biggest favorites at home over Florida, and Mark Giordano is its leader on the blue line, but he's going to cost you $6,400. However, if you want to save some money, would you choose Travis Hamonic at 4.5 rather, or Noah Hannafin at 4.1?
You know what? On a night like this, it's okay. It's okay. If you want to go with Giordano, it's fine. But there's a part of me that wants to save a little money to go a little bit up the ladder as far as Calgary forward. So actually, a guy like Travis Hamonic is not too bad, who is excellent in shots and block shots. And, floor is good, especially on a night like this when you're looking for value.
Now, in net, it's obviously tough to make you choose between goaltending teammates since only one is going to play.
Right. That doesn't make sense.
So we're going to just go with a couple of goalies that were teammates in the 2016 World Cup of Hockey. So, yes, we're cheating at our own game because we made the game, so we make the rules, okay? Pittsburgh's Matt Murray and Anaheim's John Gibson. Please take your pick, Chris.
This was tough. I saw the Pittsburgh line start to slide this morning, and I'm thinking, do I want to go Gibson? Do I want to go Gibson? And then I realized Anaheim lost to Ottawa of all teams, which I know LA did too. But look, a nine-game winless streak is a 9-game winless streak anyway. You slice it. Matt Murray is probably the better choice tonight. After dropping a bunch of games early in the season and getting injured, people had questions. And now, over his last 6 starts, he has a sub-2 goals against average. Yeah, save percentage is up around .935. I mean, these are excellent numbers for a guy who has won 2 Stanley Cups. It seems like a no-brainer tonight.
Chris, before you take off and really kick your Friday night into gear, hit us with your slate-approved pick, your lock play of the night, please.
Until he cools off, it is good old South Jersey native Johnny Gaudreau. Gaudreau is on fire right now. It seems like even when he doesn't score, he sets up somebody else to score. And look, any one of Florida's lines tonight can be picked on defensively. They're not playing well right now. And when you're giving up 35, 36 shots a game like they are, along with the chances, it's a huge problem.
All right, that'll do it for tonight, Chris. We've still got NFL Sunday Showdown picks to get to right after some NBA Tears of Joy.
Time for a DraftKings Fantasy Flash. I'm Carolyn Azak. Former first overall pick and 6-time All-Star Rick Nash announced his retirement from the NHL on Friday. The 34-year-old winger was forced to cut his career short due to concussion-related symptoms. Nash's agent released this statement saying, in part, under the advice of his medical team, the risk of further brain injury is far too great if Rick returns to play. Nash was drafted by Columbus in 2002, where he spent the first 9 seasons of his career before being traded to the Rangers and later the Bruins for a short stint last season. He collected 437 goals and 368 assists over the course of 16 seasons and was 3rd among active NHL players in goals scored before his retirement. Nash suffered his latest concussion in March of 2018 while with the Bruins. He missed the final 12 games of the regular season, but did return for Boston's playoff run. When his season was over, he became a free agent but did not field any offers as he continued to recover from concussion symptoms. Nash hadn't ruled out a return to the ice until Friday, when he ultimately decided to choose his health over hockey.
Back to the hardwood, folks, and that means we're back with DK Live's Mike Barner and the Action Network's Matt LaMarca, who still hasn't gone to that Christmas party. He's hanging around for a little while longer. Now, before we talk top picks and Tears of Joy, is there any injury or lineup news that you've been monitoring, maybe, Matt?
Yeah, good question.
Thank you.
Yeah, the big one here is with the 76ers. Joel Embiid came up on the injury report late as questionable. The most recent report that I saw is that he's unlikely to play. JJ Redick also questionable for Philadelphia. So if those 2 guys are out, that's going to open up a ton of value with Philadelphia. And they're a team we want to target tonight against the Hawks. They have the highest implied team total on the slate. Atlanta plays at the fastest pace in the league, along with being just poor defensively. So there would be a lot of value to target with these guys if Embiid in particular is out, but also Redick.
Mike, anything to add to that? Anything you're keeping your eye on?
Yeah, to add to that, I did see that Redick is playing, so that's at least a little bit of help for the Sixers. If Embiid doesn't play, Mike Muscala is only 3,200 against his former squad, so that's something to consider. Ersan Ilyasova is also starting for the Bucks. He's only 3,400, so that's a pretty good bargain there too.
Good. Fun fact: I went to college with JJ Redick's wife.
Wow, cool.
Yep. All right. Anyway, Mike, while we've got you here, let's get your top pick from Tier 5, please.
I don't have anybody cool that I went to school with.
Yeah, sorry, dude. You can't beat that.
Sorry. It's just me. Even though I think the Bulls are going to get blown out, I like Chris Dunn. He's been receiving plenty of minutes regardless of the score lately. He scored at least 31.8 DK points in 9 of his last 10 games.
Matt, we need your decision.
I'm going with Serge Ibaka. I love targeting big men against the Brooklyn Nets. My last time I was on, I said play John Collins against them, and he gave me over 50 DK points. So I'm riding the same school of thought here with Ibaka. The Nets just give up fantasy points in bunches to opposing big men. So if you look at this tier using the Fantasy Labs models, he has the highest median projection and also the highest ceiling projection. He is the guy that I want here.
All right, next up, you guessed it, is Tier 6. And your pick is who, Action Matt, and why? Going
back to Tristan Thompson. Talked about him the last time I was on.
Oh, no. You remember what happened the other night?
The Kardashian curse.
That's all right. I'm not proclaiming the curse dead this time. I'm going to tread lightly. I just think he's too cheap in the traditional format, and I still think that Tier 6 is too low for him in tiers. If you look at what he's done this season at a comparable salary, he's exceeded his average expected points by almost 7.5 fantasy points per game, which is just a really, really great mark. Obviously, some blowout concerns in this contest, but I think Tristan Thompson, if they can keep this game competitive, has the potential to be, a GPP winner for you tonight.
Okay, I mean, Mike, as you may have heard, there is a Kardashian curse. So what do you think of the Thompson pick, and then who are you going with?
I think anytime we mention Thompson now, we have to throw salt over our shoulders.
Yeah,
a rabbit's foot or something.
For sure.
We just got to be really cautious because we don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
No, I'm not picking Thompson. I mentioned that I like Ingles tonight, but I'm actually going to try and roll the dice with Jordan Clarkson. The Cavaliers' depth chart is pretty thin right now. Rodney Hood is going to play, but he's going to be on a minutes restriction. Clarkson scored at least 35 DK points in 3 straight. It's even more impressive when you consider one of those games came against the Pacers. So I'd take a chance on Clarkson.
All righty, before you guys are allowed to leave, we need to get your slate-approved pick. So, Mike, who is your lock for tonight's slate, please?
It's really hard to pass up James Harden based on his recent production, but with the blowout potential and his price tag at $12,500, he's not my lock. I'll actually go with Bradley Beal. I think he's a safe bet for at least 40 DK points with the potential to finish with over 50 DK points.
Matt, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to go wrong at shooting guard today. There's so many elite options. I'm also going with a shooting guard eligible player that is not James Harden. I'm going with Eric Bledsoe. I think he's too cheap at $6,100. I think that the questionable tag early in the day is also going to result in a little bit lower ownership for him than some of his teammates like Brogdon or Chris Middleton. And in games that Giannis has missed this season, Bledsoe has actually been the biggest beneficiary in terms of fantasy scoring. So I kind of like that combination. I think that, he's going to be overlooked tonight, and I want him on my teams.
Matt, what is your slate-approved pick in the hair product department?
You got to go with a nice, a paste. You don't want the gel, then it gets too stiff. You want a little flexibility in there.
I agree. I'm like a putty guy.
Gel.
Yeah.
Mike, what do you use?
I don't use anything.
Wow.
Nothing. Luckily,
that's a lie. That hair does not come out of the shower like that.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
That is. I'm not gonna lie. It is really nice.
Yeah.
You got a solid head of hair.
Wow, that's awesome. Great stuff.
What do you use?
No, great stuff you do. Enjoy the rest of the evening. We got one more go around with our NFL panel.
All right, but first, Brendan Glasheen has Mike Francesa's take on the divisional round. Please take a listen.
It's another Francesa Friday here on The Sweat. Brendan Glasheen joined by WFAN host Mike Francesa. Let's get right into it, Mike. Jets hire former Dolphins head coach Adam Gase for the same role in New York. Your take, please.
Well, it's kind of half a loaf for me. I wanted them to hire a experienced coach. I did not think they should go the coordinator or the college route. They came down to 4 guys: Gase, McCarthy, Rule, and Munkin. They were the 4 finalists, and they hired Gase because they said he checked the most boxes. I would have gone with Bruce Arians, who was not a candidate, and the reason why is he wanted to work with Todd Bowles again. I had on the air suggested 2 months ago that they hire Arians and keep Bowles as a defensive coordinator, knowing that probably wasn't feasible, but I knew they would work again, and I kind of thought Arians was coming back. He would have been my perfect choice for Donald. I think McCarthy would have been second. Gase is third. I like Gase, except he's got a lot of self-destruct mechanisms that have to be worked on. He doesn't handle people well. He doesn't get along with people well, and he blew himself out of Miami.
All right, you mentioned Bruce Arians, someone you've spoken to. He's hired by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Can he turn Jameis Winston, the Bucs organization altogether, into a winner?
Perfect guy for them. Absolutely. He wanted Tampa. He wanted a quarterback. He loves Winston. Winston's a guy who you see that half of it's there. He makes a ton of big plays. The problem is he makes a ton of big mistakes. They've got to coach the interceptions out of this game. The big plays are there. He's a very talented quarterback. He just makes too many big mistakes. I think Arians is absolutely perfect for them.
News this afternoon just coming in to us, DJ LeMahieu signing a 2-year deal with the Yankees. I want your take on the signing itself, but also the impact it has on the Manny Machado sweepstakes.
I think it has a lot of impact on the Manny Machado. I think the Yankees were fading from the Manny Machado. I think the Yankees are going to go, and they're going to surprise me by going this without signing either one of the big two, which I didn't think they would do after the Red Sox won the World Series. I thought that they would do that as a reaction. They've been more patient than I thought they would be, and this tells me that they're probably out of the Manny unless they get him at a very, very good price. I think they're probably out of the Machado sweepstakes. I like the versatility that LeMahieu gives them. The only thing I'll say is, again, another right-handed hitter. The Yankees, listen, I've been around the Yankees my whole life. The Yankees are built on left-handed power and pitching. The Yankees are incredibly right-handed. I need left-handed bats, especially with Didi down, in the worst way. I mean, they are right-handed from top to bottom.
All right, let's go to the Mets. Jed Lowry was picked up yesterday, $20 million over 2 years. Do you like the moves the Mets have made so far? The Lowry pickup and then altogether.
I do, but they're not complete yet. The Mets have covered a lot of their bases. They brought in two very good 8th, 9th inning relievers. They have good quality starting pitching. Adding Cano, he will be good for this year, and they added obviously the reliever. Bringing in Lowry gives them another guy who will be used like a Zobrist. It'll allow McNeil to play all over the place. It'll allow Lowry to play all over the place. I think that's a positive on both sides. Now, one more thing. They went and got the catcher also. One more thing. They need one more right-handed, dependable bat.
All right, let's go to a player that's still deciding between the MLB and the NFL. That'd be Kyler Murray. What do you think makes most sense for him if he chooses football over baseball? Is that a bad look for baseball? Your thoughts?
If I was, well, that doesn't bother me that much. I can tell you this. You're not going to be a two-sport player when one of the sports is a quarterback. You want to be a running back like Bo Jackson? Fine. You want to be a part-time player like Deion Sanders tried to be? Fine. You cannot be a part-time quarterback. It does not work. So he would have to choose one or the other. Oakland paid him $4.6 million to be a center fielder. Now there's talk that Kingsbury wants to draft him and trade Rosen. First of all, I think there'd be a market for Rosen. Secondly, I think if I'm the owner of Arizona, I'm in over my head because let me tell you something. You're going to tell me you're going to break the bank for a 5'9" quarterback in the NFL? Good luck. You know, this kid, you know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of Doug Flutie. The problem is I really think there is a point where size is an issue in the NFL. And this kid's got talent. He's got a good arm. He's fast. He's a good athlete. He's got a good throwing arm. He's 5'9" tall. It's going to be very hard to play in the league at that size.
All right, decision time is looming. Spring training, the combine workouts are getting going. We'll find out. Another Francesa Friday in the books. Mike Francesa, keep it locked into the Sweat DK Twitter account this weekend. He's going to give thoughts on the divisional games this weekend.
Ready? All right, DK Live news alert. Joel Embiid officially ruled out.
And we're hearing it's going to be a Jimmy Butler night.
Yeah, that's according to Chirag Hira, our DK Live basketball guru, saying go with Jimmy Butler, who, by the way, $7,600. Do it. Yep. All right, this is the final block of the show. We have lots of time to fill. Sit back and relax.
Yes.
Final time, you'll see these three beautiful mugs on your screen until Monday, so let's make it count. It's the return of DK Live's Pierce Dietrich, Jeff Ulrich, Steve Buchanan, and we need those showdown picks for Sunday's contests.
And just a heads up for the people who are watching at home, we did showdown picks for Saturday's games on Wednesday, so feel free to go back and check out that episode of The Sweat on YouTube and Facebook. But now it's Friday, and the showdown slates are out for Sunday's 2 divisional round games. First up, who is your captain pick in the Chargers-Patriots game, Jeff? And like we said, this is the last block of the show, and we have 15 minutes, so take your time.
Oh, yes, please.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into the whole James White scenario here. I mean, the Chargers they've given up the 4th most receptions against running backs. I mean, Pierce even mentioned it earlier on the show. There's no big play option on the New England Patriots offense. So how is Tom Brady going to get all these yards? How is New England going to score? It's going to be through little dink and duck stuff. Julian Edelman's got a tough matchup. It's the playoffs. It's James White. James White is like the AFC version of Nick Foles. It's the playoffs. He starts catching like 10 passes a game. So I really like the spot for him. I'm well aware there's, Burkhead and Sony Michel is in the mix, but just the way that this game feels like it's going to go, James White is going to get heavily involved at some point. I think at 4,900, well, that's on the regular slate, but for a captain's pick anyways, I feel like anyone in the Patriots offense, he's got the most upside to come through the big PPR day.
Wow, the Nick Foles, that's high praise right there. Now, Pierce, who are you going to take as your captain?
I agree. I got the same guy. I like James White a lot.
Interesting.
It's not going to work with the DBs in San Diego. Tom Brady really doesn't want to go after them. You got a really strong pass rush, but that's the key to why James White works. If you want to counter the strong pass rush, you check down to the running back, and that's why San Diego is 23rd against receiving running backs. Also, draw plays work really well, which they love to run James White out of the shotgun. You can get the draws to work. But Jeff mentioned the problem that you're going to run into, and I'm sure Steve doesn't like this pick, is there are about 500 running backs in New England. There always has been 500 running backs. And if you play fantasy sports, then you've been burned by Bill Belichick. He could easily just go Rex Burkhead or go with anybody. So it's risky, but I like James White.
Steve, first of all, you can comment on that. Do you hate that pick? And second of all, you can give your pick.
Oh, thank you for the freedom.
You're welcome.
Yeah, obviously, I talked earlier how, I think this could end up being a James White game to begin with. I mean, we always talk about, the mess of running back that the Patriots operate. And, I've been burned by it before, what's your name, Pierce? Like he said earlier. But the thing is, what really attracts me to James White is that Tom Brady, almost any chance he gets an oppressor, he loves talking about James White, and he loves talking about when the ball gets in James White's hands, things happen. And that was something he really kind of drove home after the whole Josh Gordon incident. So I really feel like that this is going to be a spot for James White. We saw him get more involved since Josh Gordon has gone down. So I definitely like that pick there. But what I'm taking here is I'm taking Keenan Allen. I mean, if you believe the spread and you believe the Patriots are going to be winning in this spot, then you want to be taking Phillip Rivers, arguably his favorite target with Keenan Allen. He's 13,800 for captain, which really wasn't as much as I expected when you think of some of the other guys that are their number one receivers and they're the captains in this game. Look, he spends more than half of his snaps operating out of the slot. That's where they like playing him there, and that's where the Patriots have been so poor in coverage. They've allowed 12 touchdowns to opposing receivers out of the slot, averaging 108 receiving yards out of that area there. It's just not a spot they defend well. So Keenan Allen in this spot, I feel like would be a great spot to take advantage of.
Pierce, where can you find value in this game?
I like the Patriots defense. I'm not going to go as far to say that Phil Rivers is going to choke. I just don't think he's going to have a good game. And you're going to get some leverage here because people have been, well, maybe not necessarily hyping up Phil Rivers all week, but people want him to win. People love rooting against Tom Brady, and people want Phillip Rivers to beat the Patriots, and they want him to get a Super Bowl. And so people are probably going to put too much money on Phillip Rivers and on the Chargers. It's just not going to work out. Like Steve mentioned, they're going to play from behind. And if you're playing from behind, they're going to have to be aggressive. They're going to have to force passes. And that just works out for the defense. You're going to get more opportunities for interceptions when the Chargers are playing from behind. You're going to get more opportunities for sacks. Although they don't get very many sacks, it's still going to be a possibility if Rivers is having to throw the ball left and right. And the Patriots, fourth most interceptions per defensive drive. I like it. I don't think a lot of people are thinking about the Patriots defense.
Steve, you're not a big fan of that pick?
I don't hate it, but, like Pierce said, they just don't get a lot of sacks. Like, that's the problem. Like, maybe we can get a defensive touchdown or so because, obviously we know Rivers can toss some interceptions. But, yeah, the Patriots just don't get a lot of sacks. So I'm not crazy about it. And 4,000 seems like a lot for a defense that really hasn't been reliable all season long. What I'm looking at is Austin Eckler at 4,800. I think this is a pretty sneaky spot for him. I mean, we saw, this is someone that only has 3.8 targets on the year, but over the last 4 games, including the wild card, he's seen closer to 5 here. And the Chargers, obviously, we're thinking they're going to be playing from behind here. So the game script, would you think, would favor Eckler in this spot? Even with Melvin Gordon active last week, he still had 11 carries on the day. So, I mean, I know that Gordon was hurt for a little bit. He missed a few snaps with I think it was his other knee that was bothering him there. But realistically, this is somebody that could get 6 to 8 carries, maybe 4 to 5 targets. So for that kind of production at $4,800, I feel like you really can't go wrong here. And again, as I said, if they're playing from behind, Eckler's going to be getting some of those targets.
Jeff, would you consider rostering Eckler?
I like Eckler a lot in this spot. I actually think he's in play for a captain's pick. I mean, he played more snaps than Melvin Gordon last week. Melvin Gordon was playing with 2 knee braces last week, too. Like, that's not optimal for football, okay, especially when you're a running back. And then you had the other thing is Eckler is he's a little bit game flow proof. I mean, he's going to get work because Gordon's banged up. So if they're ahead, he'll still be involved. And if they're behind, I mean, he caught 4 targets last week. Like, he's their best pass catcher out of the backfield. So definitely all over that Eckler pick. I think if you're going for a cheaper captain's pick, he's definitely in play. I like Tyrell Williams, and part of the reason is one of the flaws of this Patriots defense, they're not really that great at stopping the big plays downfield. We saw Kenny Stills burn them. A couple other players, Tyreek Hill had a massive game against them. So it is a little bit of their weakness. Stephon Gilmore's almost certainly going to be shadowing Keenan Allen. It's kind of been the big storyline there all week. Tyrell Williams, he does not need more than 3 or 4 targets to go off in a game. We've seen him catch 2 long touchdown passes already. I think that's a very sneaky value pick in a showdown format. I think you should even consider him on the main slate too, because he's going to be like 2% owned. So I'm looking at Tyrell Williams, possibly just that one big play. That's all he needs to pay off.
I will say about Gilmore, though, he does not travel to the slot. So if Keenan Allen's going to...
I know, I agree, but I think you're going to see him do some of that this week. It's just everything they've been saying, it's going to be Gilmore versus Allen. So we'll see. But
Steve looks unconvinced.
We'll see.
We'll see.
That actually was perfect. Your eye roll. It was like the Brady Bunch, like you looking over to Jeff. Anyway.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the Eagles-Saints game. So, Steve, who would you captain in this one?
I mean, how do you not captain Michael Thomas in this spot? He's the second highest guy on this slate here. But there's enough value on this slate that I think you can make up for paying up for Thomas here. Ted Ginn Jr., you got to be looking at him this week. Not a lot of buzz about him. Nelson Aguilar is another one that you could put into your roster to help alleviate how much money you're paying for Thomas. And look, he caught all 4 targets when he faced Philly already back in week 11, 92 yards with a touchdown for 19.2 DK fantasy points. I mean, we always talk about how poor this Eagles secondary is, how poor they are against opposing teams. Wide receivers, one's over 90 yards allowed per game. So obviously in a spot like this, who's their wide receiver 1? It is Michael Thomas, and it's not even close to anybody else here. I know someone's going to make the case for Kamara. That's obviously a great pick too, but Michael Thomas is going to be the guy they're going to be looking to for those deep shots in the red zone if they're passing. So it's got to be Thomas for me in this game.
Pierce, what do you think of the Michael Thomas pick?
I like it, and for me, it comes down to how do you want to use that captain's pick, and do you believe a guy is going to get 2 touchdowns? If Michael Thomas doesn't get 2 touchdowns, then I don't think you've used the captain's play that well. Same thing with Kamara, and I just don't see the 2 touchdowns from anybody. I see touchdowns, and I see them coming from all the different weapons. So for me, I'm going to go with Nick Foles, and he's just script-proof. If they go down, if they're getting beaten alive, they're going to pass, and I just don't see a scenario where the Eagles are getting success on the ground. They're going to pass, and that's what you can do against the Saints. 22nd pass DVOA. I don't know if Foles is going to have a good game. I don't know if the Eagles will have a good game, but he's going to get yards, and he's going to get 2 touchdowns. I know that's only 8 points, but that's better than Thomas getting 6 points.
Steve, I heard you say, oh boy. What do you think of the Nick Foles pick? I'm guessing you're not with it.
I mean, I just don't like Nick Foles. So it's like, it's just for me, I just instantly, look at Jeff. Look at Jeff. I just offended Jeff. He is so offended. Out of everything mean I've said to Jeff, this is what offended him. Okay.
How can you not like Nick Foles?
Take
the
it
guy
away,
came
Jeff,
from off the bench to like, it's written off. Everyone said he sucked, and then he won the suit. Like, it's like not liking ice cream or dogs. That's like,
that's not even close.
I love them both.
Not even close. Okay, but anyways, I will say with Pierce, he is going to get a ton of yards. I mean, obviously we know how banged up the same secondary has been all season long. Marshawn Lattimore is not the guy that he was last year. The yards are definitely going to come, but I just feel so dirty putting Foles in my captain spot.
Jeff, are you going to go with the Nick Foles of Nick Foles? That would be Nick Foles.
Look, if you're playing the Philadelphia Eagle in the captain spot, I 100% agree. It's Nick Foles. Like, I just don't see how he doesn't throw 50 times in this game. So the volume is going to be there for a massive game. I'm going to take the chance that the Saints have actually practiced this week and they're not they remember how to play football this Sunday.
They're not rusty.
Super rusty. I'm going to take Alvin Kamara. If you look at the Eagles' defense, Kamara just sets up so well. They've given up the second most receptions to the running back position, but they've allowed the 5th fewest rush yards in the league. That just screams Alvin Kamara, and he should get used a ton in this game. I know Mark Ingram's going to see some field, but this is a Kamara spot if there ever was one. He's such a matchup nightmare. I expect him to get all the usage he can handle, and if you believe in the Nick Foles narrative and the Eagles are going to keep this close, you're going to see Alvin Kamara up to the end of this game getting a ton of targets, in my opinion. I think he could approach double digits here. So I do like him over Thomas. Obviously, Thomas has a great matchup, and I think people are hyper-focusing on that. But Thomas is kind of a little bit game flow dependent. It's also a lot easier to take out one downfield passer than it is a guy who gets moved around the field, who can work out of the slot, who can take carries. So I prefer Kamara over Thomas. So I'm going for a captain's pick.
All right, well, this is when I come in and I ask you to give us some value in this game, Jeff.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm going to go with Dallas Goedert again. I've screamed this since Nick Foles took over at quarterback, but Zach Ertz is targeting. It's just not as consistent without Carson Wentz there. And Dallas Goedert, you saw him pay off last week with the touchdown. This guy's hyper versatile. He's actually playing like 70% of the snaps because he's such a good blocker. And the Eagles are designing plays for him. They design screens for him. I think he's a great play, especially in a showdown format. I don't know if you need to play him on the main slate because there's such good tight end talent, but in this game in particular, I like Golden Tate, but you can pay down for Dallas Goedert. He's got great touchdown upside in this game.
Pierce.
I'm going to go with Will Lutz. And so if you've been watching the show this week, I'm super committed to this rusty narrative. So I got to stick with it here. And I believe that they're going to come out rusty. The Saints are not ready to play. And they're going to play conservative as well. They're going to play conservative. They're going to settle for field goals. They're going to try not to lose the game. Plus, as I mentioned before, the red zone defense from the Eagles, pretty good. So field goals from the Saints. They win the game, but I'm saying 5 field goals.
Will Lutz even know which side to kick to, though, Pierce, because he's so rusty? I mean, I think you should go with the Eagles kicker.
He's ready to go. He's not rusty. He's been practicing. He's got his game on. He saw what happened to the Bears kicker, and he doesn't want that coming his way.
Cody Parkey.
If Drew Brees opens like 0 for 10 in this game, I'm gonna have to give Pierce.
Yeah, if people want to hammer me for my rusty take, then send all the negative tweets to me at the Fantasy Grind. I'm ready for it.
Well, look what that missed field goal led to. For Cody Parkey, ended up landing on the Today Show this morning.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys caught that segment. Anyway,
I did not.
All right. Well,
I do stuff during the day, Emerson.
Oh, really? Yeah. Yeah. You really strike me as a guy who does stuff during the day. Steve, need some value in this game, bud.
I will say, though, Pierce was off the show for quite a long time, and this is what he comes back with. Welcome back, Pierce.
The rusty narrative.
Your input and your knowledge is very welcome here. Look, I'm looking at Nelson Aguilar here. I mean, 44% of the snaps in the slot during Wild Card weekend. He's going to see either Eli Apple or PJ Williams in that spot. I mean, both have just been so poor in coverage. Slot receivers have given the Saints absolute fits this year. And look, we've seen Nick Foles rely on Aguilar. He likes going at him. He likes targeting him. And we've seen some stuff happen. What does give me a little bit of pause, though, is that Golden Tate was getting a lot more work during Wild Card weekend than we expected. That they're still kind of in that split when it comes to playing out of the slot. So there is a little qualms about that. But really, when you look at the guys that are on here, there's not a ton of value that you really feel good about when you're looking at this lineup here. There's not a lot of guys that you can lock in for, a certain amount of points at the low price point. So Aguilar is probably about as low as I can go at this point. But, it's still not – it's definitely not consistent, that's for sure.
Well.
What do you think? We have 1 minute left.
Yeah.
Oh God, we did 14. Come on,
dude. You guys are good, man. You guys are good.
I just want to get this on the record. So, Pierce, is Philly winning this game?
No, they're not winning this game.
What? Yeah, because Will Lutz is going to kick 8 field goals.
Right? That's going to be the difference maker.
How can you not pick Philly to win this game?
They wake up in the second half.
Yeah, Pierce, you sound like a fraud right now,
Jeff
dude.
is all in on St. Nick, you guys.
Watch it happen.
He's
Watch it happen.
Jeff, just leave. Go do stuff, Jeff.
He's all
Uber.
I'm going to go watch the Today Show.
Yeah, go check out that Cody
seriously,
Parkey
check it out,
segment.
dude.
Yeah.
Cody Parkey's a good dude.
Okay, so guys, that is a show. We thank you so much for giving your extended
Whoa,
takes on
wow, that was a
everything.
long segment.
Yeah, and thanks to all of you at home. Download our DK Live app for the latest updates throughout the weekend. We'll see you back here on Monday, 6 p.m. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, DK Live app, and Emerson, you can go now.
I'm done. I'm done.